Hey everybody, I'm gonna get right to it. This is a poem that I wrote. It is a very SJW poem, obviously, and I had been holding it back because we weren't really in a space for that right now. But today, Bernie Sanders dropped out, and I feel like we could all use a little social justice in our lives. This is called Not All Men. Not all men, you bravely decree, taking a stand against misandry and misanthropy and the possibility that I may have a point. Like the potential that I have a perception you can't control as a fast-approaching telephone pole across 3 lanes of traffic, and yet you swerve to miss it anyway. Not all men. Your declaration implies that the bruises on my thighs were a lie perpetrated for the sake of slandering your gender. And sometimes I think I could escape this fate, this unerring need to debate my arguments if I just remove the pronouns and make every attempt to hide who hurt me. Not all men, you still shout, and I can't block out this tingly spidey sense that you are completely dense to any implication that there's a larger picture here. That we are just 2 threads in a giant tapestry made of patriarchy and hegemony, so old that we've forgotten how the war began. These days, the war is raged on bed sheets and city streets, on Facebook and Reddit, where it's okay to call somebody a faggot because he dared to speak up for women's rights, and Tumblr, where the social justice warriors will ride into your inbox and shit in your Cheerios if you step out of line. Not all men. It is your rallying cry, summoning to your side 1,000 examples of how you are a perfectly nice guy, how you didn't post nude pictures of your girlfriend to the internet, how you are always there for bitches who never appreciate you, and you were mad but you didn't hit your partner. You set the bar so low you can step right over, trip or stumble into righteousness just by being a basically decent human being. As your banner unfurls in the wind, your own personal Washington, crossing the Delaware for the war on your side, independence from the tyranny of women who can speak their fucking mind or post a link without your witty repartee. Not all men, you assure me, as if I haven't realized that yet, as if I'm not intimately aware of every stare and every glare I get, and the few who don't perpetrate or perpetuate these tropes are a welcome haven. As if all men would have to use their hands like mallets and their dicks like knives before my point of view would matter. Only then in that dystopia would I be justified in speaking out and bravely declaring we have a wee fucking problem with gender-based violence. And in that world, where all men are rapists and abusers, women would then be able to speak out about violence because obviously then we would be safe to speak. As if examining your privilege and your actions, your words and detractions is so much worse than the fate a woman would contemplate speaking her mind in a world where literally half the population could kill her for it. Not all men. You still beat that dead horse over the course of a dozen conversations with 1,000 counterpoints to prove my words wrong. Because if you can make me upset, you'll reset the clock and put me back at square one in a cumulative argument where the only way to win is not to play and never to say anything remotely emotional. As if to say, my argument only matters if I don't give a fuck about the outcome. Men are raped too, you say, as if that's supposed to make it better, instead of just being your personal love letter, a note to all those men telling them that they are just an anecdote, a foil, a data point you quote in your argument against social change. I wish you could see how different the world would be, for me, if I really thought I lived in all men land. I would be clad in 12 knives, razors in my thighs, spikes braided into my hair, landmines in the valleys of my breasts. You and I would not be friends, and in the end, the greatest measure of woman would be marks on a war belt. But we don't live in all men land. We live in a land where there are survivors and allies against the rest of the world, where you can go your whole life without having to examine your privilege, and I won't even come after you for it. I will let you live in the comfort of your ignorance and my sufferance without challenging or executing political correctness, as if my crime of speaking my mind was worse than a cock shoved in my throat. Just don't come into my space, my place, my base of operations in this conflict and tell me not all men, because I promise you that I know what I'm fighting for in this war. And I will not back down because you're offended by the way that I've apprehended our respected situations. Go on and live in your definition of utopia, this myopia where violence doesn't matter, not the threats or the messed up mindsets, so long as one man hasn't raped me yet, and stay out of my way, okay? The things I say, the course I stay will not be weighed against fear of you. Because there are moral absolutes which lie between the lies and truths, the most fundamental of them being that I am a fucking person too. Not all men. Not all men are responsible, their ways reprehensible, or the echoes of their crimes unstoppable. But your declaration, your demonstration, an interruption of the conversation just to demand your consecration, does actually make you one of them. Thank you to all my patrons. It's been really great these last couple weeks, just keeping up the videos and staying in touch with people. I hope you guys enjoyed that poem. I know that it was rougher than a lot of my other material, but I feel very passionately about it, and I hope you guys do too. I think all of my patrons are generally of a similar mindset. I love you all, and I'll see you all tomorrow.